Okay, and we're BATPack number 3, I think, for the year this year. Naomi and Kylie have done a great job at pulling this all together. And today we're really privileged to have Dr. Connie Buckingham with us. Now, full disclosure, Dr. Connie actually presented about a week ago and my computer stopped working and stopped recording. So some of you might notice that we've had a change of clothes. That's just to check that you're watching, and we're going to re-record this just so that people didn't get an opportunity to share this amazing work can see it. And I spoke at a workshop 2 days ago and people were raving about Social Stencil in their school, which is really good to hear, because what they were talking about, which excited me, was, Connie, this is easy. This can be embedded into our practice, which is what's different. So I'm going to get you to introduce yourself and just tell us really quickly before you start, what led you to this? How did you get here?
Oh, that's a good question. Hi guys, I'm Dr. Connie Buckingham. I'm a psychologist. I've been practicing for 20 years and I got into it actually because I was working as a school psychologist and I had spent years working with autistic young people, running group programs, supporting them one-on-one, as well as all the other stuff you do in schools. And then I suddenly wanted a bit of a change. So I moved to Sydney away from Melbourne just for a year and I worked for a private girls' school. And the first question I asked them was, what do you need? How can I be helpful? How can I have impact? I've worked as a school psych for 5 years in the education department in Victoria. What do you need? And interestingly, in this single sex setting, one of their biggest challenges was relationships, friendships, and conflict between peers. And it wasn't in the same way that I'd observed it in co-ed settings, where often you've got a mix of boys and girls who also often are engaging in, often more so the boys, overt aggression, name calling, and physical violence. In this small girls' school, physical violence was not the primary focus. It was more about relational aggression. So things like exclusion, gossip, and what's the other one? There's a third, but now my brain's fried. I can hear the plasterer downstairs in my house banging. So let's just keep going if we hear interesting noises. So I started to observe the girls and notice the way their friendships would sometimes cycle in and out of best friends, now we're enemies, etc. And so for that first year, I wrote a program called the Friendship Saver Program to help them better understand friendships and how to manage conflict within their friendship group. That year, when I was running the program, the school was also doing a state school-wide bullying survey with Dr. Ken Rigby, who's an academic in Adelaide. And at the end of that year, I had suddenly run the Friendship Saver program about 12 times across 12 different schools out of however many from the cohort of 1,500. And the classrooms that had received the Friendship Saver program had statistically less bullying than the other classrooms. And some of the kids, banging, was saying, we don't have bullying, we've got the Friendship Saver program. So from that first pilot, I decided I wanted to see whether or not I could reproduce the same results in different schools and with others facilitating, not me. So I flew back to Melbourne and connected with Melbourne Uni and started a PhD to evaluate and examine the program I had written to see whether or not we could create the same impact elsewhere. That took me about 11 years. And at the same time, we had things like COVID get in the way and also personal life. You have kids, you renovate a house, and I needed to pay my bills. So I started working privately with young people in my own practice. And that gave me another little test bed to run the program with clinical populations to see what was effective and important for them. So years on, so now I'm talking, let's give you a timeline. Well, this all started in 2008. By the time we got to 2020, it was finished and the results were in. And it was a really incredible journey to move the program over those years, because at the same time we had schools running it in its pilot version and it expanded out to be a co-ed program and it transformed a few times. So 2020, I finished running the program, finished the research, and I can talk a bit about the evidence later. But something happened in about 2022. I was sitting with my colleagues. So years on, my little practice that I mentioned before became a large multi-site practice with OTs and speechies, allied health therapy assistants, mental health social workers, psychologists. And so there's just over 30 of us. We're called the Allied Health Studio Collective, and you can Google us. We were doing some PD. One of our psychologists said that we should really learn about neuroaffirming practice because we have so many neurodivergent young people in our practice. That sounded like a good idea. So I sat through this training day with a few experts, advocates with lived experience, their own for themselves. We had Rebecca Schellner, who's an ADHD with a family with all sorts of neurodivergence, and she advocates for ADHD, runs My Spirit Child conferences, and also Sandhya Namon from Onwards and Upwards Psychology, who's also an author. And they taught my team about neuroaffirming practice, which was amazing. And at the end of that day, I reflected on the Social Stencil program, which used to be called the Friendship Saver program. And I thought, oh, I either throw my social emotional program in the bin now that I've heard what I've heard, or I strip it down and rewrite it. So I went with the latter. I had a good look at the Social Stencil program as it was with all of its research and evidence. And once I learned about neuroaffirming practice and what that means for young people, the program had to change. So what I'm sharing with you today is that iteration. In the last 18 to 24 months, Social Stencil has been stripped down and rebuilt together with critical experts in neuroaffirming practice, looking at the material and evaluating it with me to make sure that we're delivering something in classrooms that's safe and accessible and helpful to the whole class, not just some of the kids who are neurotypical. So I'm going to show you some of the material and give you a sense of what Social Stencil is. What is Social Stencil? Social Stencil is now a neuroaffirming, social, emotional, whole class or small group program. It provides students with a shared language and shared concepts to learn and talk about emotions, listening and attention, friendships, conflict, and all the variations. And hopefully by the end of this session, you'll get a sense of what that means. Social Stencil provides students with a shared language and shared concepts to talk and learn about how we listen, all the variations, building emotional literacy, understanding anger, self-regulation, and co-regulation. I'll show you some of the posters and activities of that shortly. Friendship concepts, why conflict happens, and how to manage conflict independently. And we have a few core skill sets. So the program's spread over 18 weeks and starts with the top skills of those top skills that you can see, which are foundation skills like listening and emotions. And then we move up to higher order, more abstract concepts. The program is experienced as whole class discussions, games and small group challenges to explore themes and support peer-to-peer learning, helping to build a culture of respect and care. It's a social skills program, but it looks different to what you've always known. So with that, I say, be kind to yourself during this session. Some of this material might be confronting, challenging what you've always known and done in the social emotional learning space, because this is coming from a perspective of being neuro-affirming. Please remember, we did the best we could with what we knew at the time. Our work can always evolve as we continue to learn more. So some of this material might challenge what you have in your toolkit today, and that's okay, because it might then get a bit of a zhuzhing, and we can know that we are always supporting young people with what we know and continually learning. So what's all this talk about things looking different? We've changed the way we teach social skills and emotions. I think this is me wishful thinking. I think the phrase should be, we're changing the way we teach social skills and emotions. Now, for some reason, my slides don't appear the way they're supposed to, but we can cope. Before, you may have had an image like this, maybe not with a monster, maybe it was a person's face, or maybe it was an emoji showing happy. And you might say to the young people you work with, this is happy. Can you show happy on your face too? I say this because I used to do this as a clinician working with young people myself. Here's a face, an example of happy. Now you show happy on your face. Why isn't this okay? Historically, we taught autistic and non-autistic people how to recognize and imitate neurotypical representations of emotions. We assumed that only neurotypical representations of emotions were valid, seen, and acceptable. As a result, autistic individuals have been invalidated, shamed, trained, and forced to mask in order to be accepted. It's time to change the conversation. If our collective goal is to improve relationships between peers, autistic and neurotypical people need to learn about each other. Now, I say autistic there, but I'm really referring to all neurodivergent young people. We can still play games and activities to explore emotions, but let's make sure our social emotional learning going forward is what I like to call bi-directional. Actually, I don't know if I can claim that word. I think I read it in a research paper. It's a brilliant word, bi-directional. What does that even mean? Some people show lots of expression through their facial expressions or body movements, but others do not. We can also express the same emotion completely differently from one day to the next, or even from one moment to the next. It's natural. So here's a takeaway in this example. Everyone expresses emotions differently in their own way. So with that, for bidirectional peer-to-peer learning, we would open a conversation between kids. How do you express your emotions? The shift in social emotional learning isn't just a feel-good movement that represents inclusivity. It's evidence-based. Research has shown that neurotypical people are actually better at reading the emotions of other neurotypical people compared to their autistic counterparts. And conversely, autistic people are better at reading the emotions of other autistic people compared to neurotypical individuals. This mutual impairment is known as the double empathy problem. So we'll all understand one another better and therefore work, learn, and play together more effectively when we create opportunities to learn about one another, which is the goal of Social Stencil. So let's look at some examples together. This is an example of, well, it's not an example, it is the listening poster that we share with young people in the Social Stencil program. It's possibly different from what you've seen before. Once upon a time, I used to teach young people whole body listening, and maybe you've done the same. And I thought it was the bee's knees because you had a really explicit poster telling young people, look forward, look at the speaker, shoulders pointing at the speaker, hands still, feet still. But what we've learned is that young people listen differently, and some people actually need to move to listen in the way that's right and best for them. So we've got these classrooms of kids who listen differently and need to do that in order to learn as best as they can. So I worked with a few experts in the neuro affirming space and came up with this post. Actually, M from Neuro Wild was the inspiration to this one when her and I spoke about her son and how he doesn't learn best when he sits still. That's hard work. The energy to do that leads him to just switch off. Instead, you're going to help him learn best when you give him the opportunity and the invitation to stand at the back and move. And so this poster is an effort to capture some of the different ways that people best listen to learn. So if you start from the bottom up, you've got someone sitting on the floor. That's an option. Maybe getting right up the front for a closer view is helpful. Someone's fidgeting, drawing, colouring in. Some people learn best when they sit at chairs in front of tables rather than on the floor. But others will work best when they look away, stand, or move. So all those variations happen every day in our classrooms. But if we don't talk about it, and if we don't invite kids to use the space to make that work for them, they feel uncomfortable to take that opportunity. Maybe they feel like they're doing the wrong thing. And in some contexts, sitting still, looking up the front is still overtly talked about as the standard for listening. So those kids walk in every day aware that they're going to let you down. They're going to stand out relative to their peers as someone who's not trying hard enough. And they're going to feel unsuccessful as learners. But if we give them the option to recognize what works best for them and use that listening style to learn, we're going to have engaged learners that have a really strong identity as learners. And then peer relationships start to change too. Rather than thinking that that person up the back isn't doing the right thing, we recognize that person up the back is working really hard to learn, because that's the style of listening that works best for them. So that's an example. Now, there's a lesson plan that goes with that opens those conversations for bi-directional learning. Let me show you a few more posters, and I'm going to see if I can stop sharing. So there's a snippet of what we're about to see. Look, there we go. Am I full screen now, Lee? You're on mute, but I'm sure you're saying all the good things.
I said you're much taller now.
Thank you. Awesome. So here's a little snippet. If I go back to emotions, which we were talking about before, and I showed you that monster and the emotion image, smiling monster. Now that years ago changed in my repertoire because I realized that one-dimensional images of faces don't really help us understand how we show emotions or how others show emotions and all of the variations. So instead, in Social Stencil, we use cards with words and pictures that are relatively abstract, which opens, that's not going to help you, that opens conversations about how you might feel or express, showed you that one already, different emotions. So that's one tool. The other thing we do when we're teaching kids about emotions is we look at context rather than just how we express ourselves on our face, because not everyone shows emotion on their face. So these are Mr. Lady Beetle adventures. So Mr. Lady Beetle's on the back of a butterfly, no facial expressions, no body language. So you have to make guesses based on context alone. So here's another little random one. How's Mr. Lady Beetle feeling right now? Again, there's no right or wrong answers. And peer-to-peer learning opens the conversation so that we learn from each other and hear each other's opinions. So with that, we're also building their ability to work well together, because we have this space where there are no right or wrong answers, but opportunities to hear from each other, acknowledge each other, and respect each other's opinions and our own representation of emotions and ideas. Let me carry on a little now. I'm going to show you how we teach anger. So this is a fun one that you can do with your young people. It's an experiment that helps people understand what anger does, what happens in their body when something happens that feels unfair or unjust. So in this particular example, we have a beaker of water or whatever you want to get your hands on. I thought this would be okay for the screen. So I tend to use my trusty companion, soy sauce. There we go. I've tried lots of different things. Soy sauce seems to have the best impact. So when we work through the Social Stencil program, in about session 4 or 5, we talk about the science of anger. And this session came through because I was working with a group of really dysregulated 9 and 10-year-olds who often reacted to moments with physical aggression and violence. And so we worked together over a few weeks, pulling in different concepts that I could teach them were science-based to help them understand what happens in their body when they get angry. And out of that group program, this particular lesson made it into the Social Stencil program because they're quite universal themes. So let's imagine that something happens to you that feels unfair or unjust. Maybe you're playing down ball, or maybe you call it foursquare, and you did the perfect shot, got it right on the inside of the line, and they're out. And the referee says, nope, nope, it's over the line, you're out. But now you feel angry. Now, what happens when you feel angry in your body? Lots of chemicals are released into your bloodstream, including the one I talk about, which is represented today by premium light soy sauce, which is adrenaline. So they call you out and adrenaline is released into your bloodstream. Now, adrenaline has a really interesting function. It wants to make you move. It wants to make your body move. So it's in there and it's just stagnant right now, but it feels your body. Now I'm giving you a teensy tiny fast forward version of a whole lesson plan. So let's assume we've already talked about all the ways your body feels when adrenaline is released. So maybe your legs feel shaky and bouncy and your hands feel tense. Maybe your cheeks are red. Maybe your heart is racing. So maybe you've got sweaty palms, all the things. And it's often because of lots of chemicals, including adrenaline. So adrenaline wants to move. Now, in this example, we need to make it move because that's what adrenaline wants to do. You can't just block it and pretend it's not there. It's often the reason why we do feel this need to be really physical and do something with our body. So let's find safe and helpful ways to work with what's happening in our body. So here's the adrenaline, wants to move. Now, at this point, I usually ask kids, how could we make the adrenaline move in the water? It's just there hanging and it's got to move. So usually kids will come up with a few ideas. One being, let me see if I can find it. Usually they'll say, well, just like stir it. Okay. Is the adrenaline moving? Can you see it moving?
Yep.
Yes, we can. Okay, number one, safe and helpful way to make adrenaline move is to make it move. Find safe and helpful ways to move your body so that the adrenaline can move. Strategy one. How else could we make the adrenaline move? Let's say you've come home from school and you're going to go and play on your Nintendo Switch, but your little sister has drooled all over the controller. Oh my God, it's disgusting. It's not working now. Adrenaline release. Ooh, what do we do now? Well, the other strategy that kids often come up with to make this adrenaline water mix move, how could you make it move? Add air into it. Blow bubbles. So almost always kids will come up with these strategies. And I'm ready in the background with my multiple straws because everyone wants to have a try. So let's see, can I make the adrenaline water mix move?
Lots of bubbles.
Lots of bubbles? Correct. If I breathe into the straw, the adrenaline water mix moves. Look what happens when I stop breathing. Nothing. And it's a really nice analogy for kids. The only way I could make the adrenaline move with oxygen was when I actually deep breathed and then blew into the straw using big breaths, bubbles generated. But when I stopped deep breathing, the adrenaline water mix stopped moving. The same thing happens in real life. If I'm deep breathing in as if I'm smelling a flower, blowing out as if I'm blowing bubbles, the adrenaline in my system is going to move around. But if I'm just regular breathing, watch what happens.
Only little bubbles.
Not a lot. Now, kids will want to check this out for themselves. So have a lot of paper straws on hand and make sure no one breathes in the wrong direction because that's a bit of a nasty shock. But essentially, we can use this model to help reinforce the importance and value of deep breathing because often kids roll their eyes when you're trying to teach them about deep breathing. I breathe all the time. But this helps us see what happens when you continuously deep breathe and the adrenaline in your system can move. So that's strategy two. Breathe. There's a third strategy. Actually, there's 4 all up. The next one, how else could I make the adrenaline move? Now, mind you, I'm moving it because I'm trying to balance it over my keyboard. That's scary, but let's pretend it's super, super still. The next strategy, which helps to move the adrenaline, not just from my balance, is add more water. Check it out. Does it move? Does it move? Yes, it moved. And in fact, it dilutes the adrenaline water mix. So the third strategy, which is actually genuinely scientifically helpful, add water, drink water. It will dilute the intensity of adrenaline in your system. Now, that's all good and well. So we can teach kids, if you're feeling this release of adrenaline in your system because something happens that feels unfair or unjust, you can move in safe and helpful ways. Add air, add water, but that's only good if you can self-regulate. And sometimes you can, but sometimes you can't. So in those instances, we also want to teach kids co-regulation. If you need, get help. So that's the 4th strategy. You can do lots of activities to reinforce all of those things. We also want to teach them that, in fact, you can feel adrenaline for those emotions as well. So hopefully now you're getting a sense of the playful, hands-on nature of Social Stencil. The first quarter is listening, emotions, anger management. The middle chunk is friendship concepts. So let me throw a few your way so you can get a sense of the program in the middle phase. This is, I won't show you yet. I'll show you using my little tools. There's a concept that we teach kids so they get a sense of different friendship styles. So friendship styles are different from star signs. I'm born a Taurus, I'll die a Taurus. However, friendship styles are choices. So one friendship style that you might be familiar with, you've probably seen it in the playground, maybe you've been in this setting yourself at times. I think I've got what I need. 2 peas in a pod. 2 friends, play together, trust each other, feel safe together. Best buddies, 2 peas in a pod style. The other style that we introduce in the friendship, I almost said Friendship Saver program, in the Social Stencil program, I'll tell you why I changed the name in a minute, is group style, where you have several people, they're not very well formed, several people who like to hang out together in a group. Big group games, big group fun, maybe big group fights. Second style. The third style, which you might think of people that can relate to this one on, is bouncy ball style. So bouncy ball style might sometimes like to play with 2 peas in a pod. Maybe sometimes they want to join groups, or sometimes they just want to hang out on their own. So they bounce around a bit, bouncy ball style. And the last style is just me, because some people actually prefer to be on their own, to have time to recharge their batteries, reflect on what's happening, and reset their brain for the next chunk of the school day. So some people's preferred social style is just me. Now, all these different styles have advantages and disadvantages. So in groups, kids sit together and work out the advantages and disadvantages to each, because there is no premium ideal friendship style. They're just different options and choices, which is what we want kids to recognize and acknowledge. So there's the poster that relates to that. There's a few other friendship concepts, but I'm mindful of the time, so I might jump ahead and move us to how we then talk to kids about conflict and how to manage conflict. So there's a concept that we introduce which has been around since the 70s. There was a psychotherapist named Dr. Stephen Karpman who introduced this model to help people in family therapy, addiction counselling, and even organisations and schools. And it's an adult model. And when I learnt about it, and I was working with that girls' school all those years ago, I decided I had to adapt it to make it kid-friendly. So I'm about to show you what's called the drama triangle, but this is the kid version. And I did email Dr. Stephen Karpman 20 years ago. No, when was it? 2008, however many years ago. And I said, I love your model. It's perfect for helping kids understand why conflict happens. Can I present it using this animal adaptation? And he wrote back and he said, yes, you have my blessing. Amazing. So this is the kid-friendly version of the drama triangle. It suggests that when you are engaged in conflict, you are often in one of three roles, and often you switch roles too. So you might be a lion in a moment where you might be raising your voice, trying to intimidate. Maybe you are presenting in a way that's a bit scary or threatening. Maybe you are the mouse, the one that is feeling victimized, feeling small, not feeling heard. Or maybe you're in a position of magpie, sweeping in to help the ones you care about. So in the adult model, we have the aggressor, the victim, and the rescuer. If you are in conflict that's dysfunctional, you're probably in one of these three roles. And you can think of even for yourself as an adult in your own relationships. You probably have a model that a role that you come to first, whether you're the lion, the mouse, or the magpie. And often we switch roles. So often the magpie becomes the lion to try and protect a mouse. Now, just like the other image I showed, there are reasons why we fall into these dysfunctional roles. There are both advantages and disadvantages. So what's the advantage of being a lion? For example, maybe you feel heard, or maybe you feel like you're being assertive. The advantage of being a mouse, people come to help you. Maybe you believe you're defusing the situation. And the advantage of being a magpie, well, you're trying to help a friend. But there's disadvantages too. So we give young people an opportunity to talk about the advantages and disadvantages equally, then recognize where they might often fall. And usually at the end of that session, the next question is, well, how do I get out of the drama triangle? So with that, we move young people through 4 sessions where they start to learn particular skills so that they can manage conflict with a greater sense of independence and confidence. And the skills they learn, so that I don't have to show you all the bits and pieces, there's 4 main skills: problem solving, how to be assertive, how to be caring, and with that they learn about co-regulation, and also strategy check. So I'll show you one of those concepts, and then we can see if Lee has any questions representing the group. So the problem solving poster is this one. So you've possibly seen problem solving posters before, and they provide young people with a really clear sequence of steps that they can learn to work through when they face a problem. Research tells us that young people who are resilient, which is a bit of a catchphrase of the last decade, resilience is often linked to the ability to problem solve, which is the ability to, in the moment, come up with strategies, options. If you have difficulties with executive functioning skills, so if you've got difficulties remembering things, if you've got difficulties with planning and sequencing, problem solving as a cognitive process is much harder. So there are young people in our classrooms who do find it hard to mentally problem solve in the moment, which means instead they'll do the last thing they did last time this happened. Last time someone called me a chicken face, kicked him in the knees and ran away. So next time someone calls me a chicken face, bang, kick him in the knees, run. So teaching young people how to problem solve, it's a really challenging process for them to learn, but it's really important that they become aware of those steps and have a impartial way to access this learning. So we don't teach kids how to problem solve after they've just had an explosive event in the playground. They're elevated, emotions are high, they're shut down for the day. This is something we want to teach to the whole class so that it's accessible, and we want to teach it in a way that's fun, engaging, and feels safe. So for example, when I teach this model, we teach it with ice cream. So imagine you've gone to your favorite ice cream shop, and I always think of Minnow on Melville Road in Coburg, Victoria, and you turn up and you're there for some baklava ice cream, and you get to the front, or maybe it's cookies and cream, and they've sold out. So that's your problem. And so we use that really gentle, silly example to work through the problem solving steps and work through it as a whole class. And as they become more familiar with the steps, can even elevate to more challenging, interesting examples. For example, a spaceship has landed in the suburb next to yours, and the government has said, save yourselves, we have no idea what's happening, good luck. And so now we problem solve. What do we do? Aliens have landed. And so you can work through a really safe, silly example. And then once they get good at that, you can start approaching more friendship related, relevant, real life examples. So there's an example we worked through in Social Stencil, which is, now today's Halloween, so this one's perfect for today. Wherever you're watching it, today's Halloween here. The example is, you have turned up to school in your favorite soccer player's uniform, representing your soccer player, favorite soccer player, and your friend, who's also a soccer fan, has let you borrow their signed soccer scarf to really complete the outfit. So you're wearing your friend's signed scarf, and your mum put blood all over your face to make you look like a zombie soccer player. Awesome. And you get through the day, fab. You go home, you take off the scarf, and it's covered in paint blood. What do you do now? So the young people work in groups, working through the problem-solving steps to figure out what they do about it. Now, that's all good and well. And for years, that's what was part of the Social Stencil program. And then I was working with a young person one-on-one. Now, all of these strategies can be used one-on-one or in whole class or small group contexts. Working with this young person. And over several weeks, we were practicing using the problem-solving model because he was constantly engaging in instances at school that ended up turning into violence for lots of different reasons. And so he and I worked together, problem solving. And over about 4 weeks, we'd keep the big butcher paper of the examples we're playing around with. And then at the end of this 4th week, he turns to me and he says, I'm getting so much better at this, Connie. In the first week, I could only come up with 4 examples, 4 ideas. And now I've got 10. Like, you know what? That's awesome. But there's another thing I've noticed. You came up with 4 there. You came up with 10 there, but all of those 10 are still violent. Oh. So yeah, he got better at generating ideas, but they were still in the same group. So from that, I sat with it and I thought, I need some kind of strategy check so that young people can recognize and learn about the range of options to come up with when they're problem solving. And I thought about my research, and when I worked through my PhD to evaluate the program, we asked young people to watch videos of relational aggression or bullying, and they had to move through a series of questions online. What happened? Why did it happen? How would it make you feel? What would you do about it? Why would you do that? What would you choose? So I had all this data from about 200 kids, and I had to code it. And I actually coded all of those responses into 6 broad categories. And from that, I knew that almost every type of idea or solution could fall into one of these 6 groups. And so I turned that into a poster, because then I could teach young people how to come up with categories of reaction to problems that weren't just aggression or whatever your go-to is. So for example, for some of the young girls I worked with or work with, walk away is their go-to, shut down, walk away. And so then that feeds relational aggression and exclusion in itself, because girls would have an altercation. And I say girls, boys too, have an altercation, stop talking, walk away because they're offended. go to their backup friends, tell them what happened. Bell rings, everyone goes back into class. Girl and backup friends are now in cahoots in order for that group to show that person loyalty. They all turn their backs when that person walks in the room. Now we've got relational aggression. So that strategy, which in the moment felt really safe and empowering for that person, stop talking, walk away, problem solved, actually creates a bigger problem that then feeds into the culture of that group and classroom. So we don't want kids just stop talking, walk away. So we actually have this poster. The stuff on the red, it tends to make the situation worse. The stuff on the blue side usually helps make conflict situations better. So what we've got on the red, give in, give up. Often they don't know that there is a problem. They might not know you're hurt and the problem stays the same. Avoid, others are confused or hurt and the problem is still there, or aggression. Others get hurt and the problem gets bigger. On the blue side, we've got realistic, helpful self-talk, talk it through face-to-face, or ask for help. So what we do as part of the program near the end, not only are we learning to problem solve, but actually we're learning to come up with responses that fit into each of these categories. So we become really familiar with what all of those different variations actually look like. When I was doing my research, what we found was pre and post assessment, pre and post intervention, the kids who were assertive at the beginning of the program, they were still scoring assertive at the end of the program. Awesome, we didn't damage anyone. The kids who were submissive or avoidant in the beginning of the program, post-program, they became help-seeking. That's a cool little step forward. The kids at the beginning of the program who started out as help-seeking, so the kids who would say, I'm going to ask my mum for advice, I'm going to tell my teacher, I'm going to see what my friend thinks, those help-seeking kids, they became assertive. So the assertive stayed assertive, submissive became help-seeking became assertive, and across the board, all of those groups became far more able to do something which wasn't actually planned, but came out through the research. They all increased in their positive, helpful self-talk. So that reframing of the problem was sometimes enough to be the solution. So that gives you a sense of some of the steps that happen through the Social Stencil program. And importantly, it all happens through group work and peer-to-peer discussion, because everyone has different ways that they manage emotions, different ways that they connect with friends. There's a whole other, actually, I didn't show this, Lee, when I was talking to our groups the other day. There's one more post I'm going to sneak into this video.
So you get bonus content today, everyone. That's exciting.
There's content. Actually, I must say, I don't think I even showed you this thing posted the other day from memory. I don't think I shared that one, but I thought I'd share it today. There's a whole bunch of posters because it's an 18-week program. It's pretty heavy. By the end of it, we've covered a lot of ground. There's a poster that I'd love to show you, which is, now I'm pulling out all my tricks and strategies. Oh, can't find it. There's a poster which has it has a balloon and a paper plane, and it's when we're teaching friendship, and the concept is friendships will float. Oh, sorry, let me start again. If you are in a friendship because of fear, fame, or fortune, the friendship will probably be a flop. So, for example, if your reason to be in a friendship is because of fear, if I'm not their friend, I'll get bullied, the friendship will probably flop. If you're in the friendship because of fame, I want to be their friend because their mum is a famous newsreader and that's so cool, celebrity. If that's your motivation for being in the friendship, probably flop. Fear, fame, or fortune. Their dad works in the canteen, they get freebies. That's why I want to be their friend. So if your motivation, your reason for that friendship is fear, fame, or fortune, it will probably flop. But if you're in the friendship for company, care, or common interests, it'll probably float or fly. So in that session, we talk about Well, common interest is a no-brainer. That's where we all connect really easily. But what does company and care look like for you and for others? And so that's another really interesting session that's very neuroaffirming, that supports all of the infrastructure of Social Stencil. I better go back. Why did I change the name? Because for years, people who were in the pilot program talked to other people, and slowly we had lots of schools across Australia running the Friendship Saver program while I was doing the research. And it evolved so much because of the research that by the time the program and the research was finished in 2020, it looked different from the earlier versions. So I made sure that I changed the name to Social Stencil so that people knew this is not the same, this is different. Especially now where the old version had things like whole body listening in it. So if you do walk around a school and you spot an old whole body listening Social Stencil or Friendship Saver program poster, rip it off the wall and have a chat with them. Let me take you back to the PowerPoint because there's a few other bits that I'd like to share. And
I think it's interesting you comment about self-talk, that we're hearing from students a lot around their, like we're talking a lot about your authentic self. And
yeah,
the opposite, what's the opposite of belonging? And it's fitting in and and giving it language and getting students to really talk about it. And I'm loving seeing in my feedback at the moment that one of the things they want to really work hard at before they go to secondary school is being their authentic self. And that self-compassion and that bravery to actually do that, I think, is really exciting. So it's really the right spot.
Yeah, thanks, Lee. And I think that's the difference. Once upon a time, when we taught social emotional skills, we taught one way, and we tried to get everyone to see that as the right way, and everyone fit into this right way. And if we're all doing it the same, we'll all manage ourselves better. But actually, this is about saying, what's your way? Tell me your way, and I'll share my way, and let's figure out how to understand each other and work and play together better. So I think, yeah, absolutely. Same. And how nice that we are living in a time where this is happening now, and where we've got people in government and leadership saying, yep, let's make sure our work allows people to feel that they genuinely belong and are authentic to themselves. I think it's awesome. So here's a little image that captures a bit of what I showed today. Now, FYI, I am in Geelong on the 25th of November running a one-day workshop. I've given you a little snippet of some of the images. They are not the lesson plans. So you can share some of this language with the young people you work with, but no, the full lesson plans either exist on an online portal, and you can find that through the Social Stencil website, or come to a one-day workshop. It is fun if you can make your way there. The visual for the streaming version. This is worth being aware of. I have an Instagram account where I chuck lots of extra and new things. For example, the other day I shared my new emotion wall poster. Everything I share on Instagram is free. It's not the program, but it's things that are consistent with and further support what people are doing when they run the program. And everything I put on Instagram, I also drop into an online platform which I've called the Resource Share. Everything there is a PDF. So you might be a clinician or an educator or working in a space with young people and parents. You can jump onto the Resource Share, grab the thing I posted on Instagram, print it, share it, use it. It's free. So that's worth being aware of. And here are some resources that if you want to learn more about neuroaffirming practice, I recommend Lived Experience Educator. There's some really great free resources about the underpinning and the framework of neuroaffirming practice. You can go to NeuroWild. I mentioned her earlier. She helped me with my Listening for Learning poster. Em is the speech pathologist / artist who creates all of the work in the NeuroWild program. She's an autistic ADHDer and a parent of an autistic young person. So she has heaps of free resources and also things that you can purchase and learn about. Next one down, Onwards and Upwards Psychology. That's Sandhya Namon, who has some beautiful resources for teachers and parents, as well as 2 books for kids. Christina Keeble is a special educator, special ed educator who tours around Australia teaching about neuroaffirming practice in classrooms. And My Spirited Child are really beautiful ADHD national conferences that bring people with lived experience or clinical experience to the stage to talk to parents, educators, and individuals who are neurodivergent. So there's some resources that I really love. But if you want to know more, whether you want to run the program one-on-one in small groups or whole class in your school or practice, please send me an email. We have the program running across Australia in all sorts of different formats, because it has to be adaptable to suit every particular group's needs. So reach out if you want to know more, because we love having new interesting groups run the program in a way that works for them. Thank you so much, Lee, for the chance to have a chat and share some of my goodies.
Oh, thank you so much for being available to re-record this. It's fantastic. You know, the work is incredible, and I think post-COVID, we've seen there's a real need to revisit this. Lots of kids didn't get to practice their social skills in the playground, you know, in informal settings as much as probably what other children did. So these are great projects. What, I suppose just the questions I'm thinking back to some of the questions we had from last time. What age groups would you start introducing this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I must have deleted that slide. Usually from grade 3 to year 9, particularly if you're a school. Some schools use it as an early intervention program at grade 3. I do know some that use it at grade 2. Some schools might use it as a transition program at year 6 or at year 7, because all of the kids are coming together new. But I find schools will know where it's right for them, and then they'll often embed it into the curriculum as a yearly program at that place, whichever year level works for them. But if you are using it clinically, you can use it with all ages. I used to use the material with my adult social group when I was running adult groups in Brunswick in our practice, and I wouldn't be sharing the visuals, but I'd be sharing the concepts and the themes.
Yeah. Fantastic. So lots to think about. We'll get out your training day for the 25th of November. Be great to have you down in Geelong. And yeah, and any information you've got, we'll send out all the links that you've talked about today. And hopefully some of the schools, for us, some of the schools that we have funded your project to work in, we know it's still working. It's very challenging for us to do projects in schools. Often that sustainability and capacity after we finish the program, it is challenging, but this is one that when we've gone back and chatted to those schools, it's still going and they're loving it, and it's really exciting to hear. So if anyone's got any questions, please reach out to Connie or the BATForce team and we can put you in touch. And yeah, we look forward to your training in Geelong and hopefully doing something a little bit bigger with you next year through School Focus. Fingers crossed. Foxy's got some ideas. So
very cool. Thanks, Lee. Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Bye now.